It's always a very great pleasure to relinquish the pulpit to someone else, especially in the days before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but at any time, and it's a particular pleasure to be able to offer the pulpit to one of our own members, Alistair Nisbet, who is going to give the sermon today. I want to say that he is a man of many parts, as are his family. Thank you so much for reading the blessings and the Haftarah. This morning, and in fact over the last few months, he has been teaching some of our students at Rimon, our religion school, to blow the shofar, with the result that 2 of them will indeed be blowing the shofar in the Montefiore Hall at the family service. But that's only a tiny part of your very great gifts, Alasdair, and I relinquish this pulpit with enormous pleasure.
Thank you, Rabbi Alex, for your kind words. Spoiler alert, I will mention the shofar in my talk. And slowly answered Arthur from the barge, the old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways, lest one good custom should corrupt the world. Comfort thyself, what comfort is in me. You may know this is the start of King Arthur's final speech in Alfred Lord Tennyson's Morte Arthur, and seems to sum up the momentous week we have had. We've seen Queen Elizabeth laid to rest, and now we're looking forward to the reign of King Charles III. And so it is with this week's Sidra. Nitzavim. Moses is making his final speech to the people before he dies on a mountain. Atem Nitzavim hayom kulchem lefanei Adonai Elahechem. You stand this day, all of you, before the eternal your God. Then Moses lists everyone in front of him. Your captains of your tribes, your elders and your officers, with all the men of Israel. But he doesn't stop there. And he goes on to say, your little ones, your wives, and your stranger who's in your camp, from the chopper of your wood to the drawer of your water. So Moses' message and God's covenant with the people is not just for the elders and the other men of Israel, but everyone, including women, children, strangers, and the lowest of the low in society. I'm sorry to criticize Moses, but I would have put women at the top of the list rather than way down after the little ones. The idea of a woodcutter as a lowly being is interesting, because even from this menial job, famous people arise. The great sage Hillel was described as a woodcutter and became an important scholar of the Mishnah. Some politicians may think otherwise, but today's Jewish values are the same as in ancient Israel when it comes to welcoming the poor and strangers. We are told to remember that we were strangers in Egypt, but we should also remember that we have been strangers and refugees throughout the centuries. Progressive Judaism is about change, responding to the current times with thought and care. It's had to change and bring the traditional Jewish liturgy up to date. Our own Siddur, Lev Chadash, has numerous examples of subtle changes that are thoughtful and based on scripture. The beginning of the Amidah, the standing prayer, now includes 3 patriarchs and 4 matriarchs. While this needs no justification, it could have been supported by this passage in Nitzavim. It would have pointed to listing the men and the women separately, giving the women their own identity and not listing them as man and wife, which is done in some progressive Siddurim. A further example of change uses a verse read by Rabbi Alex today. In the second paragraph of Bircha Hamazon, the grace after meals, the traditional phrase is Nod Elecha Adonai Eloheinu v'al britecha she'atamta bivsarenu, and for the covenant that you sealed in our flesh. This is a reference to Brit Milah, or circumcision. In one word, tradition rules out half our population. In the spirit of the wider inclusion of everyone, Rabbi John Rayner identified a verse to support a subtle but important change. Deuteronomy 30:60 begins, Umal Adonai Elohecha et levavcha, and the Lord your God will circumcise your heart, as Alex mentioned earlier. So the subtle change in the grace is to replace bivsarenu with bilvavenu, and for the covenant that you sealed in our heart. It keeps the meter of the chant, but elegantly becomes more inclusive of men and women. Indulge me for a moment to reflect briefly on our new king, King Charles III. There are many themes in this week's Torah portion that reflect the views and visions of our new king. I would like to focus on just one, and that's his inclusiveness. I have been impressed by King Charles' statements that he wants to be the defender of all faiths. He has already demonstrated his affinity for Jewish causes, giving substantial support to World Jewish Relief, where he is a patron, following in his grandmother, Princess Alice's footsteps, who is recognized as a righteous Gentile for protecting Jews throughout the Second World War. She's now buried in Jerusalem, and you may have noticed he visited her grave just a few months ago. I've met King Charles at Jewish events and at the Leo Begg College where I was chair. As king, his patronage will be scaled back, but I have no doubt that his commitment to being inclusive and supportive of all religions will be unwavering. I, for one, am happy that I have a long-term voice standing up for issues of inclusiveness when many government policies seem against inclusion, are short-term and frankly ill-conceived. After the late Queen's funeral, we will soon turn to the coronation of King Charles III. I'm sure that it will be a multi-faith ceremony, which I welcome. Ever since the coronation of King George II, though, in 1729, the anthem Zadok the Priest has been performed at the coronation service. Traditionally, the words of all of these anthems before then had been prepared by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Handel had other ideas and is reputed to have told the Archbishop, I've read my Bible very well, and I will choose myself. So Zadok the priest, after 23 bars of the strings building up the tension, the words from the King James Bible describing the coronation of King Solomon in 1 Kings 1 ring out. Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet. What Handel missed off was part of the next verse. And Zadok the priest took a horn of oil from the tabernacle and anointed Solomon. And they blew the shofar. King James uses the word trumpet. And all the people said, long live King Solomon. Going all the way back to ancient Israel, we have welcomed kings with a shofar blast. And now we use trumpets, as you'll see lots of them. Tomorrow night, we begin the festival of Rosh Hashanah, a name not used in the Bible. Instead, the festival is known as Yom Teruah, the day of blowing, and usually people add the shofar. There are many reasons given for blowing the shofar on this day: to welcome the new moon, to welcome the new year, and to welcome Adonai, our sovereign. Throughout our Rosh Hashanah liturgy, there are references to God the sovereign, This links us back to the Babylonian festival of the God King. So some of the examples are Avinu Malkeinu, our parent, our sovereign, something we say quietly, or traditionally would say quietly, is Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Li'alam Va'ed. Praise forever be God's glorious majesty, which on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur ring out to celebrate the God. And Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Imloch Li'alam Va'ed. It's in our Torah service, but it also rings out again in Rosh Hashanah. Eternal One, you reign, you have reigned, and you will reign forever. The shofar is blown 4 times in the Rosh Hashanah service, during the Torah service, and then 3 times at the end of each section of what is traditionally known as the Musaf service. The first, Malchuyot, monarchy, is the original place in our liturgy for the Aleinu prayer that has now become part of our daily and Shabbat services at the end. The powerful words will ring out on Rosh Hashanah. Let us now praise the sovereign of the universe and praise the greatness of its creator. We bow in awe and thanksgiving before the supreme sovereign, the Holy One, ever to be praised, who spread out the heavens and established the earth. And finally, Nitzavim ends on a note of hope for Rosh Hashanah. As we hear the primeval sound of the shofar, we think Uvachol Levavacha, Uvachol Nafshaka, in our heart and in our soul. Let us think too of Moses' words at the conclusion of this Sidra. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your seed may live. Shabbat Shalom, Lashana Tova Umatuka. I wish you a good and sweet new year. Thank you.